people like to invent monsters and monstrosities. Then they seem less monstrous themselves. When they get blind drunk, cheat, steal, beat their wives, starve an old woman, and they kill a trapped fox with an axe, or riddle the last existing unicorn with arrows, I like to think that the bane entering cottages at daybreak is more monstrous than they are. They feel better then. They find it easier to live. Welcome to The Witcher.
Hello listeners, and welcome to this special session of Red Moon Roleplaying, where me and Craig are going to take on the Witcher tabletop role-playing game. With us today we have Cody from our Talsorian Games. How are you doing today, Cody Pondsmith?
Doing pretty good, how about yourself?
Not bad at all, I can say. It's getting dark here in London, whereas in Seattle, where you are...
It's early morning. Well, not early morning. Morning.
Alright, brilliant. And yes, we're gonna basically just throw ourselves into this, and Cody, you'll have to tell us basically what to do, except for, I suppose, making our decisions. The decisions of which would be Sigurd Holst, which is my character. Sigurd is a dwarf, 56 years old, bard, who has a defining skill of busking +6. Yes. He does love to bring out his bagpipes when he comes into town, trying to get into those big war deeds that might take place now and have some stories to tell, either back in his hometown or homelands of Hindasfjell or wherever he might travel next. And Craig, who might you be playing?
Today, guys, I shall be playing Golan Darwin, also dwarf, 47, a rough and tumble dwarf, deep from the Mahakaman mountains, where he has come down to the north to find adventure and coin.
That's us. So, Cody, I will probably just say, take it away and get us wherever you want us to go.
Let's start with Golan. So, you came down out of the Mahakamans not too long ago, looking for something to make your name. You are fairly old, so you know of the various Northern Wars, the various Nilfgaardian Wars that have transpired. You, or perhaps someone else you know, has probably fought in them. The Mahakamans sort of fielded the Mahakaman defenders, and a few other smaller groups of dwarves who fought for the northern side against Nilfgaard. You may or may not have been part of that. If you were, it was a job. You didn't get commended for it. You didn't get exactly what you were looking for out of it. But that being said, this is possibly one of the most relentless wars you've seen recently. The grand war machine of the Empire of Nilfgaard has swept north faster than you've ever seen, and they are already moving in sort of parts around the Mahakams because they have no reason to go to war with you. Besides, sieging the Mahakaman mountains is a fool's errand, and I don't believe has ever been succeeded before. That being said, coming down out of the mountains, finding work was interesting. The northern kingdoms have become less accepting of non-humans, even less accepting than they were before. And eventually, you wound up signing on with a ship you found in port that was headed north. Ship was a big, tall ship of northern make and model, flying a flag that you've never seen in person before, but I will let you roll education to determine whether you knew where it was from. So you're going to roll 1d10 and add your intelligence statistic and your education value.
Well, I ain't not the sort to as much of an education, really, so that's just gonna be a straight D10 plus 6. 9.
9. You have no idea where the flag came from, but it looks northern make. All they really told you was that they need somebody to be on board ship and keep the pirates off. Perhaps defend them from Nilfgaardian raiding vessels. Just kind of keep the crew and its cargo safe. They put you up on top deck. The crew is all right. They don't really bother you if you don't bother them, but you've not been allowed below deck. It's all humans pretty much, save for one other, which is where we get to Sigurd. You left Skellige not too long ago searching for tales of heroism, something that you can go back and tell around the hearth and make your name as a skald. This is the perfect time to do it, assuming you can survive long enough to get back to Skellige with whatever tales you collect. You have heard the craziest things since you hit the mainland. You have heard of dragons, you have heard of sieges, you have heard of a mage rebellion and a subsequent witch hunt that appears to be going on in the north. It sounds like chaos, but it sounds like chaos that you can tell a nice tale about over the fire.
Yes, I mean, I have not been into these sorts of real critical crisis situations, with the exceptions, of course, of the plague and things of more natural things. But dragons, events like these, witch hunts, monsters, it all sounds like new worlds, something that could inspire, shake people up, maybe, get me into a finer court, perhaps at times, if I was able to tell something unique, to create and forge my own story.
And create your own story you've been working on. You have found yourself farther to the south than you anticipated. You are actually down near the bottom of Sintra, far into already Nilfgaardian territory, which you may or may not be tremendously pleased with. Skellige has been at war with Nilfgaard ever since King Ice Tirshik was killed during one of the Nilfgaardian wars. I believe it was the second.
It's not that long ago.
Not that long ago. Actually, most of the grand history of Witcher has happened in the last 60 years or so. So, you both have probably been around for both of the grand Nilfgaardian wars, and I believe even for much of the expansion of Nilfgaard that we don't really talk about, when they picked up Mecht and Gamaria.
But we've not been in the actual wars ourselves, like fighting in the actual wars.
Likely not. As far as Golan, Mahakam doesn't tend to like to involve itself with affairs outside of Mahakam. It has sent volunteer fighters during one of the wars, but not a lot of them, to my recollection. It tends to like to deal with itself, and especially under the sort of rule of Brover Hoog of the Hoog clan. Mahakam deals with Mahakam's problems. Skellige, while Sigurd has probably done a certain number of raiding parties on Nilfgaardian ships, Skellige also tends to deal with Skellige's problems and raiding Northern Kingdom ships, or Nilfgaardian ships, or whoever ships happen to be passing by. So you've heard of these wars, but likely if you've been involved in them, it's been in an incredibly small capacity.
Aye, well, that does me just fine. After all, I don't think there's glory in these human wars. Just a bunch of sods killing each other. Nah, that's not where glory lies. Glory lies in heroic deeds and doing things that people remember. No one remembers soldiers in war. They're just a mass of dead folk. Not what I want.
Good attitude. So, Sigurd, you caught a ship heading north because this ship is theoretically going to some place called Kerack. I'll let you roll education to see if you know where that is.
Alright. Let's see. Education, which I don't have a skill in. That's alright. I'll just roll. And it's... Is that with an attribute as well? It's intelligence?
Intelligence, yes.
Okay, so I roll a 2 plus 6, it's 8.
You're not entirely sure. You know it's in the Northern Kingdoms. Theoretically, it's somewhere near the Kingdom of Cidaris. You don't know a lot about it. What you do know is that it will take you closer to the front, which means closer to the stories. Most of what you run across down south of Temeria is broken families and actually, after a certain point, just sort of pleasant, if oppressed, people in the Nilfgaardian Empire, which don't make for really great stories.
Those are the ones that I would want to hear a good story, to bring them out of their misery of their daily lives.
You have had an interesting time, though. You've found that down south of the skirmish, as it were, Nilfgaard operates much differently than it does in war. It's actually somewhat pleasant from what you've seen. It appears that they just have a horrible, brutal war machine. Either way, you've wound up on this ship bound for Kerack, with one other dwarf.
Another dwarf which seems to share my interest in getting to the action and wanting to make a story. Maybe I can write something about him.
Well, I certainly would have noticed you, but I'd have spent my time staring out at the waters, always ready in case any of those blackguards from the sea come and try and take us on. I'm always ready.
You have both been on the ship for some time now. You've been heading north, close enough to the coast that you don't get hit by the Skellige pirates that sort of patrol the waters off the coast of the continent. But just far enough off so that you don't get involved in the coastal conflict and the various sort of skirmishes that are going along Verdun and sort of the juncture there. That kingdom specifically, sort of along the coast, has been taken effectively, but there are still from time to time skirmishes as rebellion groups, attempt to take back their towns from Nilfgaard. It has not been tremendously exciting. It has been a lot of time spent looking out at the sea and listening to the sailors sing sea shanties time and time again. They only know 4. So, Sigurd, you can teach them more, but,
Yeah, I mean, I probably tried to gather a few coins from whatever I can, artistry I can make, maybe from giving some advice or helping them out, or just to escape boredom, really.
Why don't you roll busking?
Yes, let's do that. Is it D10 as well?
Yes. So busking is the special skill of the bard. It allows them to basically play in public areas for money. It is guaranteed to get you a certain amount of money. Basically, just sort of helps you inculcate yourself in the society a bit as well.
All right. And is there an attribute?
Busking is an empathy ability. So you're going to use your empathy.
I roll a 1.
You got a 1. Ones are fumbles. So you are actually going to, dice in this system explode, so you're going to roll one more time, and then subtract that value from your base.
And they're all a 2, luckily.
You have been attempting some shanties and kind of trying to teach them new shanties and raise the spirits. Unfortunately, a lot of the ones you know are in the Skellige dialect of the Elder Speech. So the crew doesn't really understand them, and they aren't a fan of your bagpipes. It hasn't gone really well. You make a small amount of coin based on your final tally.
16 minus 2, so 14 in total.
You make about 14 crowns, but you have a -2 to charisma with people for the rest of that day. So you tried to play once, and people were really not a fan, and you, I hope, gave it up at that point for a little bit. let him cool down a bit.
I go, I get away. I get whatever crowns I get away with, and I go and sulk, and I think about these, fucking where outlanders. I don't even know anything about art or a true form of music.
Several days have passed, and you are traveling, from what you can tell, sort of still along the lower section of Verdun. Every once in a while you can look out towards the shore and spot the mainland, and farther back possibly the forest. You're not entirely sure. You're not sure if that's the fabled Golan forest, the Forest of Dryads, but it might be. It is towards the end of the day. This crew is still out maintaining the ship. The captain has retired for the night. What are the two of you doing? Sigurd, let's start with you.
So I'm barely sort of tolerated here now, and people really don't love what I'm doing, but... Okay, so we are on our way in. Is that what you...
You are moving up the coast. It's going to be a few more days before you hit Kerack.
What is there to do on this ship?
Sadly, very little. Some of the men have a number of gambling games. Because it has proliferated the north, there are a few Gwent games going on, as well as dice poker. But beyond that, there ain't much to do.
Well, I am sort of dependent on having good people around me and making sure that I don't end up on the wrong side of the crowd, so to speak. I am a dwarf. I try to make my living as a bard. I don't want people to spread the word that I'm an unreasonable guy to come up with, so I probably try to sit around with the crew, play games, draw raucous jokes, and see whatever I can get away with.
Okay, so in this situation, you're gonna roll charisma. So that is the charisma skill plus the empathy stat. We'll see how well you can kind of get in and among the crowd.
Ooh, finally something good. I roll a 9. And charisma 4, so 13. And empathy, so 23.
You get in there and you drop in on one of the Gwent games. You start singing one of the few common tongue songs that you know, and playing your bagpipes. You make some witty comments about the various plays that are being played, and by the end of an hour, you are well in with the crew. There's still maybe a little bit of weirdness because you're a dwarf, but, you're a cool guy.
I play on that a bit. Because I've been put in weird situations, so I joke from below, so to speak,
They'll go with it. You're a cool dude. Golan, what are you doing?
Well, I've mainly been keeping an eye out on the shore. Always aware of these sort of things, you see. I don't like to get too distracted. However, it has been a very long journey, so perhaps I would have tried a few games of Gwent. If anyone's up for it, I do have a deck myself after all. I'm not very good, but I enjoy it. It's an interesting distraction.
They'll play with you. Dwarves, for those of you who haven't picked up the system, dwarves are considered tolerated in most of the northern kingdoms, which means people don't really love them, but they don't really have a huge problem with them. If anything, the only problem they have is that you're not human. Other than that, you're fine.
Of course. After all, it's not as if I'm an elf.
Oh, heavens no. So they'll bring you into their games. Gwent is actually interesting because, unlike dice poker, is actually rolled with tactics rather than gambling. So it's intelligence and tactics. Ooh, the crew is not rolling hot.
Never had much in the way of tactics, but at least I am a little bit intelligent. That's 7.
7. You're getting by. The crew isn't doing so well either. I rolled for them to see how they're doing.
Although actually, does it make a difference that I rolled a 1?
Anytime you roll a 1, you roll and subtract. Anytime you roll a 10, you roll again, add that to the 10, and then add that to your base.
I see. So I shall roll again. So I rolled a 1, subtracting 9.
Ooh. You're rusty. You're real rusty. So things are not going super hot for you, but the crew is starting to warm up to you. You're losing, but I assume you're at least being somewhat of a graceful loser about it.
I am. I play for the game. It's all, you learn from all mistakes in life, lad. That's how I feel. Haha, well played.
And I'll probably throw in a joke there or two about him, about us sort of punching from below and being the stout folk we are. At least we're letting you keep your money.
You both, sit on top deck. One of the sailors brings out some dwarven spirits. They're sort of passing around a flask, and things sort of quiet down towards the end of the night. The sun has fully gone down. The moon is up. Both of you can roll human perception. So that's going to be empathy plus human perception.
I roll 11.
I roll 9 plus 10, 19, 23.
23. With an 11, people are maybe drinking a little harder than you're used to humans drinking. Maybe just like a little on edge. Sigurd, something's going on. The 4 crewmen that you are currently drinking with, you're kind of sort of over towards the back of the ship, and they are drinking hard. Not hard enough that they're going to be completely fucked up, but definitely harder than you think they normally would. And there's sort of an air of caution around them.
I nudge one in the ribs, and I try to put a little comment, like, in a funny way, now that I've gotten a gimmick for myself, and I say, like, you're sucking that bottle harder than a baby sucking his mother's tit. Is something going on that I should know about?
He passes the bottle to you, and he says, "You have no idea, Master Sigurd." He kind of taps his foot a little, and one of the other crewmen says, "You're not supposed to talk about it, so shut it."
Well, I raise the bottle and I say, well, we're in this together now, and I'll toast for you, whether it's good or bad by now.
There's a bit of a sigh from the group, but one of the others who has the other flask raises it, and he says, "To making it to Kerack in one piece, at least." And he knocks back the flask.
I frown ever so slightly to myself. Something seems fishy here. Now, I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I do know a thing or two about how people act at times. I have streetwise, after all. Something going on here, isn't it? I think to myself.
I drink from the bottle as well, perhaps not as vigorously as these other, my mates by now, but yeah. I do wonder what's going on.
As the night continues to pass, spirits raise a little, probably aided by alcohol. And by now, the moon is fully up, the wind has slackened a bit, and the water around you is dead quiet. You look out over the edge, and you just see sort of a expanse of black reflecting in the sky. The crew starts to kind of head to their cots. There's sort of 3 decks on the ship. They're on sort of the lower deck, and you are not allowed in the very bottom deck. Roll me an awareness check. It's going to be intelligence and awareness.
I roll a 1, which means
You need to
I
get new
actually
dice,
roll
man.
-2. But does that then... So wait, so normally that would have been plus 10. So is that a -2 to the 10?
Yeah.
Right, so in that case, 8.
Well, I roll a 1 as well, and then -8. And
New
intelligence is
dice,
6,
guys.
so
New dice.
I mean, I don't know what's going on tonight, but yeah, something's in the making. -2.
The 2 of you are heading to your cots, and the crew all kind of settles in. Time passes. You hear the rocking of the ship, just ever so slightly, water lapping against the sides. Then you hear something, just very faintly. It's coming from below you, and it sounds like singing. You can only vaguely hear it, but it sounds like a woman singing.
Is it a nice song? Or?
Oh, it's a beautiful song. It's excellently sung, and in a very strange dialect of Elder Speech that you kind of understand. You have a fairly high sort of ranking in Elder Speech because it's your home language, so you don't have a really horrible time figuring out sort of this dialect. It's sort of melancholy sailor song almost.
Yeah. I put my hands behind my head and I listen to it and I think, well, I've heard a lot worse lullabies than this.
I grunt towards Sigurd and try and get back to sleep. I was trying to sleep there, people singing in the night, and
Both of you, it's not super hard. You realize about the time the singing starts that the crew, the ones that are still awake, sort of tense up.
Are we sleeping in like a...
Yeah, you're sort of the middle deck has a bunch of cots in rows. It's you and pretty much the rest of the crew that's not needed to run the ship at night.
I try to, I say that, who is singing? I just say it out loud to anyone who's awake. Do you hear that?
plow if I know.
Just ignore it, Master Dwarf.
Is it someone on the ship? And I start to sing along with it. I try to catch on to the tune.
I'm pretty sure, Master Sigurd, if it was someone on the ship, a lady of that nature, we'd have met her already.
Roll performance, Sigurd. Let's see how you're doing here.
I'm like humming along here in a low tune.
Doing a little accompaniment.
Exactly. Let's see. I rolled 16.
You're singing along quite well, actually. You're doing a bit of accompaniment. One of the crew members looks to sort of one of the cabin boys and hisses something quietly to him. If you want to roll awareness, you can try and hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation. I'm trying to make something fun or something good out of it, but I try to be aware of what they're doing.
Okay. Either of you who want, you can roll awareness.
I do it.
Aye, well, I'm not getting back to sleep anytime soon, so I'll give it a go.
I roll a 14.
14 as well.
Both of you hear the crewman hisses at the cabin boy. Says, "Go shut her up." Bad enough she's got to be down there. And the cabin boy kind of scampers off. Doesn't look like he wants to be doing this, but obviously sort of he's at the bottom of the totem pole and he has to be the one doing this. One of the older crewmen says, "Don't concern yourself with that, Master Dwarves. It's just another passenger."
Well, can you tell her to be quiet? I'm trying to get some sleep here.
We've sent the cabin boy to go talk to her. And a few minutes later, the singing stops. It just kind of cuts out. And the men all relax.
And this is nothing that has happened similarly before, but apparently someone is on the ship. Well, and does the cabin boy come back?
Yeah, about 20 minutes later or so, the cabin boy comes back. He looks a little wet, and he comes back. Yeah, kind of like he was splashed or something. He comes back, he goes, he gets up into his cot and attempts to go back to sleep. He looks a little shaken.
What usually happens if we try to go below deck?
There's a large burly man with a cord who is there to stop you. Cord being a short, sort of cutlass-like sword.
Yeah, well, not now I'd be too interested in challenging, but I have my curiosity piqued. This could make for a story. The time when I went on a ship with someone singing in the elder tongue, hard words to understand in a beautiful voice. I'm curious, and I wish I could find out more. Have I gauged this person before? The one with the big burly man.
You can have engaged him before. He doesn't talk much.
Do I think there's a chance I might be let down? Or?
A very slim chance. There's like a very slim chance that you might be allowed down.
Well, it is there. I mean, what am I here for? I'm gonna say, well, now that that's done, I've gone and got my bladder all bloated, and I jumped down from my cot and start making my way out as if I was going to the toilet, but I'll be trying to get downstairs.
Nobody really pays attention. They figure you're not lying. It's pretty innocuous. If it were more obscure or strange, I would have you roll deceit, but it makes sense. You head out, and you kind of slip down the steps as best you can. Nobody's really listening for you, so I won't make you roll stealth. And find that same large human. He's pretty big, sort of about 6'1", 6'2", burly, obviously is probably a mercenary for a living. Looks like he might be Metanese, so he's from somewhere down in the Empire of Nilfgaard. And he's kind of sitting on a chair. He's got his sword sort of, strapped at his side. He looks up. Are you trying to stealth down here, or are you just going to go talk to him?
I'm probably just gonna go talk to him.
He says, "Evening, Master Dwarf. You have some business down here?"
Let's see. Do I remember his name?
Off the top of your head, yeah, I'll give it to you. You probably remember his name. His name is Yorath.
I tried to create some sort of report with him, and just that bloody singing started to get me awake. How are you doing tonight, Yorath?
He says, "Singing won't start up again. And suppose I'm fine."
Huh. You've not been drinking as heavily as the rest of the queue.
"Can't afford to drink, Master Sigurd."
I see. Want me to get something for you?
He cracks a bit of a wry smile, though a little forced, and says, "Told you I can't afford to drink, Master Sigurd." You can roll persuasion if you want to try and get him to drink.
Yeah, I'll try that. I'll say, "That's a damn shame. The rest of the crew is starting to fall asleep like little pups, and I was looking for someone to share the bottle with." 13.
His face kind of screws up a bit, and he leans forward. He says, "I'll have a bit." Yeah, he holds out a hand.
And I bring over one of the bottles from earlier that we've been sharing.
He takes it, and he takes a small swig and hands it back. And he says, "You're from Skellige, aren't you?"
Damn right. Trying to find something worthy of a story, but all I've seen so far is planks and salt water.
"You Skelligers know the sea, right?"
So we proclaim.
Looks contemplative for a moment, like he's kind of trying to decide what to do. In the meantime, Golan, are you heading back to sleep?
Well, I was, but I've kind of woken up now. I'm mulling things over in my head. Bunch of people on a ship. Someone being transported, but it doesn't seem like the sort of ship that would transport people. My streetwise is making me think something is afoot here. I'm not quite sure what.
What do you want to do about it?
See, I, out of character, have ideas, but I'm wondering if perhaps it should be a streetwise roll to see if I actually put two and two together. Because I'm thinking, is it possible this ship be captured someone and be ransoming them off or something? Maybe that's why all the crew are so on edge.
You could try streetwise to figure out why they might do that. If you've put together that they're possibly kidnapping someone, that's legitimate. If you figure it out on your own, that's legitimate.
Well, I rolled 6, 7, 8. 14.
There's a possibility that they could make some money having kidnapped somebody. What might be the case is maybe if they've kidnapped someone from Nilfgaard, they could attempt to sort of beggar a deal in which perhaps their this Kerack place is not razed to the ground by the war machine of Nilfgaard, and in return they give this person back. But they would have had to have kidnapped someone very important.
Aye. It's probably best not to get involved. I don't want to be fighting a whole crew of people by my own. It's at this point I notice, looking around, that Sigurd, well, he's been gone a while, hasn't he?
He's been gone for a few minutes. He's kind of gone down somewhere.
Well, he's not the sort I'd get himself in trouble, is he?
He is looking to tell stories and have adventures, so, you know.
Well, maybe I should go and have a look. And I get out of my bed, and I just sort of grunt to anyone who questions me.
I don't care.
And begin heading out.
You head out. In the meantime, Sigurd, Yorath is having a real hard think about this, and he says, "We're dealing with something here that I've never seen before. This has never been attempted before to my knowledge. Not really.
Does seem like a delicate operation.
In my opinion, we're in over our heads, but the captain won't listen to it."
Are you worried that someone will... look at the rest of the crew, and I take another sip. It almost looked like people were expecting something to happen to the ship. It seems like everyone's tensed up just because we're getting closer to the destination.
Time's closing in for something to go wrong. People are expecting something to go wrong.
That's funny. I thought that would be the time to drink less. And I still have another sip, and I say, by the way, that comment about Skellige knowing the sea, you're not calling me a filthy pirate, are you? And I'm winking, trying to lighten up the tense mood.
Of course not. He pats the hilt of his cord and says, "Thought maybe you'd have a better concept of what we're dealing with."
Might well be. And I pat my own Kriegsvärd, which is a pretty fine sword.
He says, "As far as the captain's concerned, or the rest of the crew, this never happened." And he stands up, and he goes to unlock the door that he has been standing in front of this whole time.
And I'm trying to keep my cool here. I feel a rush of adrenaline as my heartbeat it speeds up, and I try to act as if I could care less, but maybe this could be something. Maybe this could be the start of something.
In the meantime, Golan, you are heading out of the main sort of bunk area, and they're not being super quiet, so you do hear sort of talking from down on the lower deck. Or, sorry, the entrance to the lower deck.
Well, I frown a little, and I then go and have a little look, but I don't want to be disturbing folk, so I'll do it nice and slowly. I'm not going to barge down there, just see what's going on. What's he doing chatting with people this time of night?
Roll stealth. Sigurd, you can roll awareness. Yorath is going to roll awareness.
Right. $15.
7, 8, 9, 10, 12.
Sigurd, you notice Golan kind of leaning around the corner a little bit. His foot kind of hits a small stone, which bounces down the stairs. Yorath stops for a moment, but kind of looks to you, Sigurd, and you realize something that kind of has been prevalent since you both got on the ship. Since you're both dwarves, most of the ship kind of assumes that you know each other and are operating together.
Does the Yorath notice the Golan as well?
Yeah. He notices Golan and he kind of looks at you like, is this cool? Is your buddy here,
Yeah, well, I'll say something like, Golan, you big sack of filth, I thought you were going to bed.
I was, but you be making a damn racket, you... And I come forward. You and disturbing people this time of night, Sigurd. What you playing at?
I thought that was what I was trying to avoid. Is the crew still asleep?
Well, aye, they are, but they're all... And I stop for a moment and I look to Yorath. I'd quickly go, because I was probably about to say something like, humans, but I kind of stop and go, they've all been drinking, haven't they? So,
yeah,
probably the only one who didn't much.
I shoot a glance to Yorath and I said, well, Golan isn't the one to stir up trouble. He is the one looking for the trouble that has already been made.
Yorath nods and unlocks the door. The minute he opens the door, you hear the sound of gently lapping water, and he kind of ushers you through into the underdeck. The underdeck looks like it used to be some form of cargo hold. It's got some boxes piled up here and there, but in the center of the this sort of cargo hold, actually it's kind of off to the side, it's not on the main line, you see a large wooden tank. It's heavily reinforced, probably made of some form of hardwood, and big enough to hold several creatures. This is large enough that you could probably have like a dolphin in there without it really feeling super cramped. You can see sort of from reflections of lanterns, sort of a reflection of water in it.
You carrying water on a ship? I try to slip in and so that he can close the door behind us. As I say this,
I step forwards. I suppose I'm interested to see what all the fuss is about. So I'll step forwards, yes.
Yorath closes the door behind you and walks down into the lower deck. You see most of a butchered cow sort of over in one corner. Looks as though sort of bits have been being cut off of it. And he says, "You want to be careful, both of you. Don't get too close."
and I feel my heart pounding now with excitement. Like, whatever is in this thing, I'm thinking to myself, and I just follow Yorath's lead now, because apparently he's got us on his good side.
He goes over to a sort of hastily made but still fairly sturdy sort of scaffolding almost. Climbing up a ladder, it goes around this tank, and kind of gestures for you to follow him up. You climb up and get to sort of a platform towards the edge of this tank, and you look down, and you see a glimmering silver mesh, sort of more of a sort of like prison bars almost over the top of this tank. And below that, somewhat murky seawater with something very large moving in it. If you want, you can roll awareness to kind of try and see deeper into it.
Very large, as in how large are we talking?
As big as a dolphin, maybe a little longer.
I roll a 13.
I roll a 10.
Both of you see the shape moving underwater. You see this long serpentine tail, and almost more of a human shape towards the top of it. And then you see it comes to the surface. Breaking the water surface, you see the face of a beautiful human woman. Long red hair, perfect complexion, sparkling kind of bluish green eyes, looking up at you from the water.
I start to try to memorize this and come up with possible rhymes for a possible song. This is entrancing. I say, To yours, she's the one that was singing before?
Yes, she sings from time to time.
I am fighting off the temptation to continue the song that I picked up, but that would of course risk the crew starting to wake up and get annoyed and notice us being gone.
Would I have any idea what this thing even is? I don't think I would.
Both of you can roll one of two skills. You either roll monster knowledge or education. You can roll either of them without the knowledge.
Alright, I roll a natural 10. Does that explode?
Yes.
I roll just a 10.
So let's see, 14 then plus intelligence, 20.
Okay. On the 10, Golan, you're not super sure. Sigurd, this is a siren. This is troublesome for a number of reasons. The first thing you are sort of immediately aware of is what you are seeing currently is not real. The vision of this beautiful human woman, tail and all, is a sort of natural illusion that sirens can put up. The real creature is a horrible-looking fish monster, possessed of razor-sharp teeth and claws, but it puts up this guise to lure people toward it. And actually, as you are kind of remembering this, it reaches one, delicate, beautiful hand up through the grate towards you, kind of giving you this imploring look.
And that was at that time that I was first intending almost to start singing, that I realized this, and I take a step back and I push myself against the other side of the railing, and I say to Yorth, does it ever show its true form?
It did once. He grimaces and he says, "We used to have more crewmen."
Right.
Wait, so you're saying this is some sort of beast? Certainly looks it, I suppose. Wait, so that's why you're all so tense? You're transporting this beast somewhere, but who on earth would have an interest in a beast like this?
It's the captain's plan. He hasn't really shared the rest with us. The siren, realizing that Sigurd isn't going to fall for it, looks to you, Golan, with these wide and imploring eyes, reaching out for you with the hand.
I think to myself, this looks like, I suppose, what passes for an attractive human. Certainly not attractive to me.
Doesn't have a big enough beard.
No, this is no fine dwarven lass. And fish, not to mention half it's a fish. I don't even like fish that much.
From the side of my mouth, I when I see it looking over to you, I say, it's a siren, Golan. I try to lure people in by its singing and its appearance. It's a monster underneath that illusion it's putting on now.
Oh, I see. And I take a step back myself. Ah, yes, a beast that uses trickery. Interesting.
You gonna sell it somewhere, or?
Yorath says, like I said, I don't know the whole plan. We caught it down south. We've been transporting it ever since. It's quiet and complacent, and then anytime anyone tries to get close to it, we've cleaned up a lot of blood, Master Sigurd. Every once in a while it sings. Nobody really knows why. It's probably trying to lure people down here.
And you feed it with that? And I gesture towards the butchered cow.
He nods.
And then does it change its guise, or do you just still see a pretty lass going at it at the...
It takes it deep beneath the water, and then I think it changes. A little hard to see down there, with all the murk.
Well, it's an interesting beast, but I don't see how we need to be bothering you anymore. I think I've seen enough. Come, Sigurd, let's return to our beds.
The siren sinks down below the water, so you can no longer really see it clearly anymore. And, Yorath says, I never showed you any of this.
No, I was just taking a leak. Got stuck watching the stars, and now I think I'm heading back to bed.
You head back up out of the underdeck. He shuts the door and locks it again, sits back down at his chair. Says, it's only a few days to Kerack. We'll be out of danger once we're not in open water.
You think some of its kin might come to try and free it, or...?
I can only imagine there's a reason the captain brought you on board. He looks to Golan.
Well, don't you worry. If anything tries to come on board, I certainly won't be letting it. At least not without a fight.
You're sort of, Yorath goes back to guarding. What are the two of you doing?
I'm taking one more sip from the bottle. Handing it over to Golan. I go to finally take my piss and then go to bed.
Alright. Golan?
I take a little wee trip upstairs just for a moment. I just want to see, just for a few minutes, the open water and have a little look around before I go back to bed.
You stare out over the open water. Off to your right, you can see the coastline of Verdun, and off to your left, open ocean going out, eventually towards Skellige. Roll awareness for me.
19.
Out in the waves, you see motion. You see shapes moving through the water, sort of long serpentine shapes. They're quite a distance off the ship, but they're kind of keeping pace with it.
I don't think this is something I should sit on. Where would the captain be at this time of night?
The captain's quarters is at the back of the top deck.
I make my way over there. I'm not going to be a fool and spill what I've seen already down below deck, but there's nothing that says I couldn't have come up here and noticed something afoot, and I don't like the looks of things following us. So after all, my job, so I'll go and lightly knock on the captain's door.
You lightly knock on the captain's door, and there is no response. You figure he's probably asleep by now.
I knock again, this time louder.
You knock louder, and after a minute or two, you hear kind of, heavy footfalls from inside, and the door opens, and you see the captain. He's a fairly stout man of Siren background, short blonde hair, and a nice for human standards beard. And he leans on the doorframe and he says, I do hope you have a good reason for interrupting my sleep, Master Dwarf.
Of course I do. I'm doing my job, Captain. Look over there, starboard.
He comes out of his cabin and he looks over and he narrows his eyes and says, not to be unexpected, Master Dwarf.
No?
It is not to be unexpected that we would have company. That's why I hired you. He takes out a spyglass and, looks down it towards the shapes. He says, they come near the ship. Let us know, and we'll have some of the men armed with pikes to help.
Very well. I just thought you should know as soon as possible. You have no idea when they could make a move on us. Wouldn't want to be caught off guard.
He says, living up to the amount we're paying you. Good. He puts the spyglass away, and he says, we'll be in river soon, and we won't have to worry about them. He looks very proud of himself, actually.
I think to myself, typical human, not paying attention to what he sees in front of him, only thinking of what's ahead. Well, nothing I can do. And with that, I decide I may as well go back to bed. I assume things don't look like they're coming anytime soon. I may as well get some rest.
You head back down below deck, and you head to sleep as best you can. The next morning, you're both awakened. The crew starts to head to their positions, relieving the night crew, and getting the ship going full sail. The waters look a little choppier. It's a little hard to see out further into them, but the captain is awake and looks pleased and somewhat relieved. Says, "All right, men. We've got a good wind. We may be able to make it to the river's head in the next day or so. Eyes open, everyone, and remember, the harder you work, the faster we'll get there." The men kind of, yeah, sounds good. They're pleased to be getting into river, but some of them don't look too convinced that they're going to get through this without something happening. What are the two of you doing?
As the morning comes, I immediately get up, get myself ready, and go to take my post. I'm anxious. I'm not too worried, but I do think, knowing what I know, I'd be very surprised if these beasts give up on their kin.
I sit up by the front of the ship. Sit and take notes. Play around with melodies, trying not to disturb people because I know my bagpipe playing apparently isn't appreciated here. I jot down a few lines, start trying to memorize what I've seen, and I hum to myself, "Oh, come and see what's haunting me, the silvery visage, the lure of the sea." Yeah, that could work. Keep putting things together.
As you're doing this, the captain comes over. He says, "Master Sigurd."
Captain.
He comes over and leans on the railing near kind of where you are, and he says, "I hear you're in the business of stories."
What's his name, the captain, by the way?
The captain is Captain Olson. He is he's a human from Cidaris of fairly good stature.
Yes, Captain Olson, that is my line of work, trying to find something alluring to write and to sing about. This calm sea isn't giving me much so far.
He says, "Well, I think I have something for you. Come with me."
Oh.
He comes off the railing and gestures for you to follow as he heads towards the stairs down to the lower decks.
I feel a fling of mirth come across my face, but yes, this is exciting. Let's see whatever could it be that he wants to show me.
He leads you down. You find Yorath, who makes a point of not making eye contact with you as the captain has him open the lower deck. And he heads down. He says, "Being a dwarf and being from Skellige, I wouldn't imagine you are keeping any close eye on the current war. But it's not going well for us in the north."
Oh, that is grim news, Captain.
He says, "My acquaintances are currently attempting to hold the Nilfgaardians near Kerack. It's a quaint little city on a sandbar. I'm sure you haven't heard of it."
Other than that, it's our destination. What do I know about it? Do I know anything about it?
You can roll, I'm going to let you roll streetwise, see if you picked anything up from the crew.
19.
Kerack is a tiny sort of independent city, sort of country region. It's built on a sandbar in the middle of a river between the country of Verdun and the country of Cidaris that nobody particularly wanted until a pirate captain named Osmic, I believe, basically took it over and built Kerack. It has gone back and forth. It was at one point part of the country of Cidaris, and then it kind of became its own country again. Now it's sort of not really important or powerful enough to be noted in the same breath as any of the other northern kingdoms, but it's kind of its own independent nation at the moment.
Yeah, well, I know that it's our destination. I know of its history of being torn back and forth, and I assume you have your own will for the place.
He smiles, proud smile, and he goes over and he pats the side of the large tank in the bottom deck, and you hear movement from inside it. He says, Kerack needs an ace up its sleeve if we're going to fight off the war machine. He waves a hand. He says, we have a bit of a rough situation with Nilfgaardian ships and blockades, but I have the solution.
Some sort of weapon, or?
Better. He goes up onto the same scaffolding as before and gestures for you to follow up.
I come up along, being careful again, being a little bit nervous again, because now I'm close to that thing.
Up on deck, Golan, you are at your post. The seas are a little choppier, but you are maintaining a course. Roll perception.
You mean awareness?
Awareness. Sorry, that's perception in one of my other games. Anyway,
Of course.
always get that mixed up.
17.
17. You are keeping an eye on the water. You're not seeing anything disturbing the surface at the moment. But you start to hear very muffled singing.
I frown a little to myself, and I remark aloud to any nearby, Hey! Look alive! We might have something approaching.
The crew has started to tense up, and 3 of them go off and start grabbing, basically boarding pikes. If you want, you can draw your weapons of the many weapons you're currently carrying.
I draw my battle axe and have it ready. I have a look at it, and I think, for a moment, actually, I'll put it away, and I'll get out my crossbow, thinking, might get a shot off before they get on board. I do, however, call to the nearest man near me, don't panic just yet. We are aware that things are coming. You are skilled at battle. Just keep formation, keep an eye out, and should be able to deal with any volatile fish.
Morale is holding okay. Down below deck, the Siren comes out of the water and begins to sing, rather loudly. And Captain Olsen says, beautiful, isn't she?
And I hear the melody going through my head, and I think of the words that I started putting to it, and I feel it's not doing its justice. It's not. Nothing is doing its justice.
He says, this is going to be our ace in the hole. You see, we're going to bring this beautiful Siren back. And with her, he smiles and he says, in the possession, perhaps even in the higher courts of Kerack, perhaps Cidaris, we will have an army of Sirens at our disposal. That'll take care of the Nilfgaardian vessels.
An army?
He says, Sirens and humans have allied themselves in the past. We will have an alliance of compromise, shall we say. If you want, you can actually roll education.
I'm trying to figure this one out. Let's see if I remember anything about this. Yeah. No, I roll a 9.
With a 9, you know that there are some kind of wives' tales of Sirens marrying humans. Not super common, but it has happened. And there was something that went on in Cidaris with one of the sort of higher aristocracy marrying someone from the sea. So this is probably sort of along the lines of what Captain Olsen is thinking, and sort of he's almost thinking sort of a political marriage between Sirens and you know, someone in Kerack, or you know, maybe someone in Cidaris. You just have the strangest inkling you're not really sure how well that's gonna work.
It sounds very strange to me. I don't say that loud because I don't want to go against this elaborate plan that he's been making, or someone has been making. And I say, you mean these beings are to be... they're to be trusted? We can communicate and live together? Aren't they... I try to whisper to Aunt, isn't it a form of a monster?
He looks at the creature again and he says, I don't give a damn whether it can be trusted, Master Sigurd. But an alliance, even if forced, between us and these things, would give us a tremendous partner at sea. He shrugs and he says, I don't necessarily even care whether we have to make this a more forceful discussion with them. They obviously want this lovely young thing back. I'm sure we can make an agreement.
Oh, this is a hostage then, I say as it dawns on me.
He says, one must do horrible things in war. And he gestures to the Siren and he says, of course, then again, you are right. This is a monster. He gestures to Yorath, who throws him a chunk of the partially butchered cow, and he throws it into the tank. And there's immediately sort of a thrashing as the Siren grabs it, and sort of long serpentine tail whipping sort of goes down to the bottom, where you kind of can only vaguely see its shape starting to change. Large teeth now evident, almost these large sort of bat-like clawed wings spreading out to kind of encompass the area and the large chunk of cow.
I see that, and I see the blood spreading in the water, and I swallow to myself, and I try to memorize this as well as a part of the monstrous tune that I would be writing. Well, I'm sure it's a solid plan. Do you need me to pass this on, perhaps, to create some sort of story about how this could frighten your enemies, or?
An excellent idea. That was just what I was thinking. Above deck, Golan. The singing stops, but you're gonna roll me another awareness check.
18.
You see three shapes moving very quickly under the surface of the water towards the ship. You are not taken by surprise.
I frowned a little to myself, thinking I somehow expected them to come up, but no, I switched to my battle axe. No, my spear.
So you put your crossbow back, you pull out your spear, and now we're gonna roll initiative. So, you're gonna roll and just add your reflex.
9. Actually, for initiative, do ones matter?
Yes.
Oh,
New
dear.
dice, man, new dice.
I know, right? So I get 1 as my initiative.
The crew, unfortunately, are caught off guard, so they're not going to be moving in this first initiative bracket. 3 sirens burst out of the air. You see these horrible fish-like monsters with these sort of fish-like faces, big sort of dead eyes and fangs, burst out of the water, and huge bat-like wings spread out from their tails. And they immediately swoop down on the crew. The first one swoops down and basically swings as it passes this big, almost scythe-like barbed tail at one of the crewmen, who barely manages to basically throw himself down on the deck. The second siren swings down and... Ooh, that's really bad. The second siren swings down and with basically its tail, it takes the head right off of one of the crewmen. The crewman's body hits the ground, blood pouring out as the head just sort of topples and rolls off to an edge of the ship. The last siren is going after you. So it's gonna basically swoop down and make a claw attack at you. So here's how this is gonna work. You have basically 4 options for defense on this. You can dodge, in which case you roll dodge plus dexterity, or actually reflex, and you just sort of move out of the way. It doesn't really move you. You can block with your axe, which is your actual melee skill plus your reflex, and that will negate the damage entirely, but it'll do some damage to your axe. You can parry, in which case you take a -3 and you still use your axe skill. But if you succeed, you take no damage, you negate the attack, and you put them at a disadvantage because they're staggered. Or you can reposition, which you roll athletics plus dexterity, and you get to dodge and also move somewhere. They give you a lot of options for defending yourself.
Well, I suppose I had my spear at the ready to try and spear this thing before it actually got to me. So, let's see. So that probably makes it sound like I'd, maybe do a parry.
You were going to roll your staff and spear skill plus your reflex.
-3. 18!
The siren comes swooping down at you, and it brings up this huge scaled claw. And you basically just deftly... You smack into the wrist of the siren with your spear, and it sort of tumbles off to the side, missing you entirely.
Ha-ha! Foul beast of the sea! Ha-ha! And I let out a large bellow of battle.
You give out a good old-fashioned dwarven battle cry, and it is your turn. So, on your turn, you can move up to a number of what would be squares or 2 meter increments equal to your movement. You could close in with this siren, which would not be difficult, and you can take an action. And actions are pretty much anything you really want to do. I'll kind of tell you how you do it. If you do make an attack, we'll stick to the basics right now. You can make a fast strike, in which you make 2 attacks. They can be against separate targets, but you make 2 attacks. Or you make a strong strike, where you focus all of your strength into 1 strike, and you do 1 strike at -3, but if you hit, you do double damage. Fast strikes are good for lots of targets. Strong strikes are good for heavily armored targets.
Ah, yes, I feel best now I've taken it down a peg. I'm going to close in to try and finish it off. Of course, that's going to take some time, but better that than get jumped again. I don't know if I can keep parrying with my spear now that they've clearly breached the battle lines. I look at some of the humans dying around me and think, bloody plowing humans can't even hold a line.
Alright, so you're pulling out your axe and shield? Or you're
Yes.
going in with spear? Okay. Alright, so you're pulling out your axe and shield. Your shield is especially good because that is a Mahakaman tower shield. It will take a bunch of damage, and it can also be employed as basically full cover, so you can put it down on little props and basically hang out behind it, and it will function as a wall, basically. In the meantime, Sigurd, you are below deck. The captain is explaining his plan. The siren, it's the top of its head comes up from under the water, and you see these sort of cold fish-like eyes and this lank black hair until, as if, by magic, you see the visage of the beautiful red-headed woman appear over it.
Do we hear anything from above the deck? Or?
There's enough sort of screaming going on that as you are seeing her guys come back, you hear sort of... actually, no! You hear a bellowing dwarven war cry from up above.
And I look between the siren, the captain, and then above. I think that's a signal for something.
The captain grabs a cord from his belt and basically starts towards the exit. You see, just below the water, the siren smiles.
I quite taken by this creature. Not like necessarily attraction, but fascination. And this would definitely make for a story, but if there's... I come to my senses like, oh, if something is happening upstairs, I can't miss that. I need to be there and witness. And I start making my way after him.
Alright, you're rushing upstairs. Do you want to draw your Kriegsverd?
Yes, I might as well on the way there, if it sounds like battle as we get closer.
You are prepared for combat. You are going to be getting up onto deck. I want you to roll initiative. Let's see where you are in the bracket.
So it's reflex?
Reflex plus die roll. 10s explode up, 1s explode down.
15.
15. Okay, you are actually going at the top of the round here. So you run up onto deck as you see Golan pulling out his huge shield and his battle axe, and you see a head rolling off to the corner of the ship, and you see basically 3 sirens kind of swooping around the top of the ship.
And I take it all in as quickly as I can. I try to remember the juicy details. But do I see the one has been knocked down next to him, or?
Yeah, you see one that is basically parried, and it is down where you can get into melee with it.
Well, there's no time to waste then. I raise my Kriegsverd in one arm, and I rise up trying to strike it down.
Alright, you run up to the Siren, and you're gonna swing for it. Do you want to do a strong strike or or 2 fast strikes?
I assume that these are not armored creatures. Do I know that?
It's pretty easy to tell sirens are not really armored.
Yes. So I will do 2 quick then.
So you're gonna roll and add your swordsmanship and your reflex, and I'm gonna roll for the sirens.
And do I add the weapon accuracy to that?
Yes.
23.
23. Okay, you strike the siren. You're gonna roll 1d10 and determine location, and you're gonna roll weapon attack. So it'll be 1d10 and tell me that number, and the Kriegsverd has a number of damage dice that you roll.
Right. I roll a 2 as to the location.
Okay, so you're going to be basically slashing it across the probably chest as it's kind of coming up and trying to swing back up.
Alright, and the mighty Kriegsverd does 4d6 plus 6. 17.
Alright, 17, because this is a steel weapon and not a silver weapon against a monster. You have that, rounding down, so that is going to be 17. That is going to be 8 points of damage across the chest, and it basically sort of reels back not far enough for it to get out of the way of your next strike, so let's see how that goes. Ooh, obviously well.
Yes, obviously well. 14, 16, and 23 again.
23. So at 23, you are actually... You are 7 above its roll, so you're going to score a critical hit. So, here's how criticals work. You have scored a simple critical hit, which means you will automatically do 3 points of damage beyond what you roll. But you are also going to roll 2d6, and tell me the full value.
The 2d6 is 6.
Alright, 6. So, you basically strike into its shoulder. And you basically not only sort of get a deep wound into it, but you manage to basically a small part of your blade sort of chips off in it. So this is a foreign object wound, which is sort of a longer term critical wound because it basically causes an infected wound. If your enemy or you get that, it basically lowers the amount of recovery and critical healing you can do, so you heal slower over time. They would need a doctor to go through and actually perform surgery to get that out and heal that wound. But in the meantime, you're striking a torso shot, so roll damage.
Alright. Torso. 18, so 9.
9 points of damage. It basically falls back, now bleeding from 2 huge gashes in its torso. It's going to be focusing on you next round. The crew is scattering to basically grab weapons. Most of them are grabbing weapons at this point. The 3 with boarding pikes are not rolling super hot. They're swinging for these sirens, but They just can't quite nail them. They're sort of arcing through the sky. It's very obvious to both of you that they're incredibly agile when in the air. The Siren that was going after you, Golan, is going to make a tail strike for you. Actually, no, it was going after you. It's now going after Sigurd. Sigurd! The Siren that you have now done all this damage to is going to make a tail strike against you. So it whips its body around and swings this big scythe-like tail at you. So you're going to roll, you can do all three. You can dodge, parry, or four. You can dodge, parry, move out of the way, whatever you want to do to kind of negate this.
And like, what is the most beneficial, or do I just go by what I'm best at?
It depends on either what you're best at or how you want to set up the situation. If you, for instance, were fighting a large group of things that were focused mainly on you, you would want to reposition, because every opponent that is attacking you at the same time gives you a penalty. So by repositioning, you can't be ganged up on. Blocking is really good if you have a shield, because you have something to just soak that damage, and you don't have to worry about positioning as much. Parrying is really good if you have a high weapon skill, because it basically guarantees that you will get, be basically able to apply penalties to your opponent. So it's kind of dependent on what your character is good at, and how you want to sort of affect the situation.
But the rest of these Sirens are still in combat with the rest of the crew,
yes.
Right?
So you only have one on you right now.
Okay, so I don't need to reposition, and we might have this one sort of pinned down, I hope. I'm going to try and parry it.
Alright, so you're going to roll at a -3. You're going to be using your swordsmanship skill plus your reflex.
Yeah, that's a fumble.
Ooh.
8.
Okay, what was the fumble? Because this is a combat fumble, which means it has effects.
1 and then 5.
Okay, 5. 5 actually shouldn't be that bad. Yeah, no really major fumble, but what's your total?
It's 8.
17. Okay. Ooh, this is going to be bad because it's now scoring a critical wound on you.
Oops.
So luckily, it is only at a simple critical wound as well. So it won't be as bad. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's not too bad. It whips its tail around, and the tail basically digs into your right leg. You feel the muscles strain, and you are first going to take 3 points of damage.
To my right leg.
It is total body damage. Armor isn't going to factor into this extra damage. So you just take 3 points of damage to your total damage.
Yep.
You have a sprained leg, which means you're going to be at a -2 to speed, dodge and escape, and athletics until you get that looked at, either stabilized or healed. You can stabilize it, you can't heal it.
Alright.
And weapon-wise, what is your leg armor?
10.
Okay, so it tears into your leg, and besides kind of twisting your leg out of whack, it is going to do, luckily, only 1 point of damage over your armor. So you're going to take 1 more point of damage to your hit points, and you're going to lower your right armor's leg by 1. Armor is ablative in Witcher, so even if you have really high armor, it can be worn down over time. But luckily, it did save you from taking a lot of damage right there.
It did. I flinch at the shock, not at all ready for it to swing around like that, and I groan a bit at the pain of my leg being twisted around. I say, Golan, get it!
The Siren, the second Siren, goes after one of the crewmen and basically grabs him and starts dragging him towards the edge, as the last Siren swoops down for one of the crewmen but completely fails to get him. Golan!
Hi, Sigurd, you fool! You're not supposed to let them hit you. And I, get my weapon ready, and I think I'm gonna go for a strong attack.
Alright, on the one that Sigurd's fighting?
The one that Sigurd is fighting.
Alright, so this Siren is going to take a -1 because 2 people are currently fighting it at the same time. If you come behind it, you're actually going to get a +3 as well, because you are basically, it is blind to you. It cannot see you right now.
So I just roll a d10 plus melee plus
your reflex.
reflex. 22. Oh, plus 3
Yeah.
would be 25.
All right. You're going to roll weapon location and your attack location, and you're going to roll weapon damage. You strike this siren with your axe.
So what's weapon location again?
1d10. Yeah, 1d10.
1d10. That's an 8.
Okay, so you're going to basically striking into its tail.
And then I roll my weapon damage, which is 5d6 plus 4. 18 damage.
And you're not going to half that because you are multiplying it due to the strong strike. And you basically bury your axe into the back of this thing's tail and dang near cut it off. It starts flailing, blood is spurting, and it kind of tries to claw its way towards Sigurd, but it collapses.
Is it dead?
Probably. Best to try and finish it off. But anyway, look alive, man. Look alive.
The captain is up on deck as well. He has been hanging back on this, seeing what's going on with the crew, but the crew is very obviously not holding their own here, so he's going to jump in on the crew's round. Sigurd, you see these sirens swooping around. There's only 2 of them left, but one of them is now dragging one of the crewmen, kicking and screaming towards the edge of the water, where you would gather that there might be more sirens. The other one is basically sort of down nearer to the deck, but it's starting to swoop back up.
So, can I reach any of them to attack then?
You can actually run to both of them, but they're sort of on opposite sides of the ship area, so you can go to one of them.
Do I want to?
It's completely up to you. I mean, sirens are not the most dangerous monster out there. You do pretty well for yourself, but there is always the chance that they could get a lucky strike on you.
Yes, and I was lucky now that I got a bad lucky strike, I suppose. But fair enough. What can we do? We must defend the ship, otherwise we'll never get to shore. So all these thoughts are going through my mind, and I start running up towards the siren that is desperately trying to drag this deckhound down into the black of the sea.
Alright, you'll run up to make a strike on it?
Yes.
Alright, fast, strong.
Let's go fast again.
Alright, so you're gonna make an attack?
Yes. 17.
17, you swing for it with your Kriegsverd, but it basically pulls back away. It lets go of the crewman to fly back up into the air. So it is out of your range at the moment. This is, note Golan, this is where your spear would come in handy. A reach weapon would still be able to reach it, but your Kriegsverd, Sigurd, will not. So you've got one strike, but it went back. So if there were another target, you could make that second strike, but since there isn't, you can't at the moment.
I tried to pull up the injured deckhand.
Alright, you're hauling him to his feet with one hand. He kind of grabs his dagger from where he's got it on his person. He was kind of trying to struggle for it while the siren was dragging him. And says, "Thank you, Master Sigurd. What are we gonna do?"
We fight. We can do it together. We've got me and Golan here, and the captain as well.
I want you to roll leadership.
14.
Alright, so you are actually inspiring this man. He is gonna fight for what he's worth. He's gonna try to grab one of the pikes in this round. He runs over and grabs it. Oh! And these crewmen just can't get a break. One of them swings for the siren, manages to get his pike stuck in one of the sort of sidings of the ship. And the captain runs up and swings. He swings a little wide, but he catches one of the sirens. He catches one of the sirens across the head. That's good. He catches the siren across the head. You see blood and some hairspray, and it falls back, grievously wounded but not dead. And he says, "Come on, everyone! We're not far from the river. We just need to fight these off." The sirens, the one that you swung at, Sigurd, is going to swing down for you with its tail. What do you want to do?
Well, I did have minuses on dodge and stuff. I feel my leg aching. I tried to stand my ground and parry it off.
Alright. So you're going to roll?
Yes. And weapon accuracy doesn't count here, right?
Weapon accuracy, yeah, weapon accuracy does not count for this.
No. So it's swordsmanship and reflex.
Yeah.
15.
15. With a 16, it barely hits you. It basically goes low when you thought it was going to go high, and it strikes into your leg. It does not get a critical, and it does hit the same leg, though. Alright, you are going to take 1 point of damage. As it gets a point through your armor, you're going to lower your armor, lower your hit points. Your right leg is getting pretty badly abused right now.
Yes, I can see so. And if I'll have to turn it into a wooden leg, at least there's another story to go with it.
Luckily, they're going to have to roll pretty high to actually take off your leg. The last siren is going for you, Golan. It swings down at you, basically swooping to try and hit you with that tail.
Right, so can I block?
Yes, you have your big shield, which you can easily block with.
Yes.
Alright, so you're going to roll melee and your reflex.
15.
15. You barely get your shield up, but you see that big scythe-like tail slam into the outside of your shield. You feel the shock go down your arm, and for a second it looks like it's going to slip up off the top and hit you, but you just kind of anchor it down. This is the one that was previously struck by the captain, so it is definitely wounded. It definitely looks like it's maybe flagging a little bit. Golan, you're up.
Right, well, I grit my teeth as this thing smashes into my shield. Damn beast. Is it within range of my axe?
Yes.
I swing at it with a strong strike.
Ooh, okay. You swing at it with a strong strike, you bring your axe down with a massive war cry, and,
That's 11... 19? 19!
19! Okay. You are going to score another critical. You are going to score actually a difficult critical this time, so you are going to roll 2d6, and actually it's a complex critical, and I will tell you what happened. You are going to do 5 points to it just from the critical.
I roll 7.
Okay, 7. So you swing your... Basically, you pivot your shield, bring its tail out of the way, and you swing your axe into basically its chest. You feel your axe hit, it bites in, and you feel sort of the crack and crunch as you break several of its ribs. So it's basically now suffering from intense pain anytime it tries to move. It's taking -2 to body and -1 to reflex and dexterity, on top of the damage that you're already going to deal to it, which, since it just took a head wound, will probably kill it. Roll damage.
I believe 20 plus the 5 would be 25.
25 total. Yeah, you bring your axe into this siren, you feel the bones just give way under the blade of your axe, and it goes right through, coming out the other side with a sort of spurt of blood. And the siren falls to the deck, tail kind of whipping, kind of clawed wings and claws gripping for you, but it has been put out of the fight.
And I raise my axe in the air and yell, "For Mahakaman!"
For Skellige, I say. And then I say, "You plowing sea filth? Are you jealous of my stumpy joggers?" And I do a little jig with my aching legs.
Okay, it hurts, but you're gonna do it anyway, just to spite them.
Yes.
Sigurd, you're up. You've seen basically Golan just tear through this siren. There's now only one siren above deck, but something about that concerns you. You rolled fairly well on your monster knowledge for sirens. You know that they travel in flocks. There should be more than 3.
So they might be below, maybe up to something under the boat. Is there something we could do if they were?
Well, there's 2 options here. You run down to the bottom deck and you wait to see if they're trying to break through, in which case you could, possibly fight them in not great terrain, but at least somewhat better terrain than the other option, which is jump over the side of the boat and try to swim down to see what's going on. Option 2 is probably suicide.
Well, I'm not gonna contemplate that for long. Maybe write a song about a fool who did, but I turn to the captain and shout, "These things travel in flocks. They might try to Damage the ship from below.
He gets this. He just goes pale. He gets this grim look on his face, and he on his round was going to be running down to the bottom deck.
Yes, and I do that too. And we need to bring Yoreth along the way.
Yoreth is actually still down there. He's moved. You'll find that he's moved into the lower deck to keep an eye on this one. So you're running down?
Yeah.
All right.
Screw this one. Who cares?
You run down. The door is already open, and you see Yoreth down there with his cord, kind of watching from where you actually do hear the thumps of stuff, sort of things, obviously sirens, colliding with the hull of the ship. You're not sure how successful they are at breaking in, but they're definitely attempting to. The captain sees Yoreth and says, "We can't let them get through the ship. We'll be sunk." And he looks to the tank and looks back to Yoreth, and Yoreth says, "We either need to kill her or let her go. I'm sure if we let her go, they'll just leave." And Captain says, "No, we will get that siren back to Kerack." Do you want to throw in here?
I don't know that much about ships and what's actually possible here, and if they will actually be able to technically break through the hull. But I probably know enough that if the hull is breached, well, it's gonna be bad news. And I suppose there's no way we could... I suppose there's no way we could bring her up and get them distracted enough to come and fight us up in the open?
Yoreth says, "We lost 3 men getting her down here. I mean, if you want to try and carry the lady up."
I bite my lip. I see the epic story here of being able to carry her to... I mean, of getting her to Kerack and going through with the mission. But how long do we have, Captain? When will we reach the rivers?
He looks grim and he says, "Even with this wind, we're not going to get there in this day. We have to fight them off and stay vigilant."
Do we have something we can drop below the sea? Some sort of poison, anything to get them away from the ship?
He grimaces and he says, "There might be something." Yoreth. And they start checking. I'm gonna... Sigurd, roll deduction.
10.
You have a crazy idea. The first thing in your gear inventory is Fist Tech.
Yes, I was actually looking at that too, yes.
Fist Tech does actually stand a very high chance to put this siren into a trance. A sort of euphoric trance if you rub it on its gums or make it snort it, which you could attempt with a series of brawling or even physique checks.
How about I put it on some of the cow meat and it maybe eats the meat with the Fist Tech on?
It's very possible. It'd be a little difficult, but it might work.
It's that or brawling with it.
It's up to you. Up above deck, the crew are swinging for the last siren. They're starting to get it. One of them manages to basically get it with the boarding pike and get it down on the ground. Golan, you realize that the siren is damn near helpless when on the ground. It all of its maneuverability and sort of the power of its strikes comes from being in the air or being in the water. And they manage to stab it for a fairly good amount of damage. And then it throws its head back and lets out this tremendous ear-piercing shriek. Whew. All the men holding it grab at their ears and stagger as this sonic vibration just tears through them. You are going to roll a stun save. So you should have a value, stun, divide that by 10 and that is your stun value, and you're going to try to roll under that at a -1. So it is lower by 1 and you can try to roll under that.
Right, so my stun is 80, divided by 10 makes it 8.
And
then what am I doing?
This attack will lower that to 7, so you're going to try to roll on 1d10 lower than a 7.
7. Oh no. 5.
5. You reel back, but you sort of hold up your shield and you kind of fight off this just brain-penetrating wave of sonic attack. You are not stunned. The crew is, however. Being stunned is really bad because you don't roll defense at that point, and it's really, really easy to roll critical hits on someone who's stunned.
Well, to hell with that then. I'm going to try and just charge at this thing and drive my axe into its head.
Luckily, the Siren did spend its round doing that screech. Sirens usually do this when other Sirens are around, so there may be more Sirens coming after this. So, you rush up with your axe. Roll. It is at a severe penalty because it is on land.
I'm an honest man. I rolled a 1, which means it's actually going to be -1. Okay, so
that's not bad.
That's only a 8, 9 then.
Okay, that is not going to hit.
No.
You run, you throw yourself into the strike just a little bit too hard, and you basically, the axe comes down right sort of next to it. You do not hit it. What you can do is, if you want, you can take an extra action by spending, so what you're going to do is you're going to spend 3 points of stamina. Stamina is kind of near hit points on your drive stats.
Yes.
And you can make another attack at a -3. That -3 applies to the whole attack, and it stacks with other penalties. So if you made another strong strike, it would be at -6. Or if you made a fast strike, you could do 2 at -3.
I shall do a fast strike this time.
All right.
As I try and recover, I'm like, oh god damn it, just stand still, you bastard.
You go for a backswing as fast as you can.
And so this time... So that's 17, and then the minuses kick in.
17 minuses kick in, bringing it down to 14. You are still going to hit, but barely. So roll weapon or damage location and damage.
That's a 7 for weapon location.
Okay, so that is into the... that's into the tail as well. And...
20 damage.
It definitely looks like it's going to be coming around for a tail strike. You have one shot to kind of belay that by getting your last fast strike in there. Ooh, and it rolls a -7.
22 minus 2, is it? So 20.
It has a 1. So congratulations, you got the first deadly critical of the game. So you're gonna roll 2d6 and see what spectacularly horrible thing you do to this Siren.
That is a 11.
Ooh. You normally do not survive deadly criticals, but if you do, they have horrible, horrible side effects. Luckily, you have to roll really high above someone to get a deadly critical.
Which in this case was very high.
You bring your axe down right basically into its face. Your axe tears into basically its eye. It cuts through the eye and into the skull, and it would give it a -5 to sight-based awareness and a -4 dexterity plus bleeding, but you are going to roll damage, which will be halved by the fact that it's not silver, but ×3 for a headshot.
And that is 6, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20 damage. So that's 10 damage.
30.
×3 is 30
So
damage.
you run up, you basically, you swing, but you swing a little wide, you go for a tail, you cut through it slightly, and as it's starting to reel back to basically swing this massive, scythe-like tail at it, you just bury your axe into its face, cutting deep into the skull, and it goes limp on your blade.
I stagger back a bit and sort of kick its face off my axe and nod and go, you bastard.
The crewmen are starting to get over the stun. 3 of them manage to. The other 2 are kind of still reeling a little bit. They see what you've done with this Siren, and there's a look of shock amongst them, but one of them claps you on the back. Sigurd,
I see them starting to look around for something as this crazy idea just strikes me, and I freeze up and I say, alright. I try to muster everything now to convince them to do this. Alright, you fish fuckers. I have an idea. And I bring out the fist tech from my pocket. This should send it into an euphoric state. Maybe it will signal to its friends to stop attacking the boat, that it's happy here. I don't know, it seems to communicate with them somehow. We need to hold it down and get this into it.
Roll leadership. Just roll as high as you can. This is a time when I should probably mention luck. You both have a pool of luck. Just double checking you got this. You both have a pool of luck. You can add those as pure points to a roll. You can only add as many points as you have points in luck per session.
Yeah, well, I might burn all of it now and see what we can do.
Alright.
I have 4 in luck.
Alright, so plus 4?
18.
18. There's a moment of silence, they nod, and Yorath goes to the tank, and he is gonna wrestle this siren for you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be as near as I can as well, and I want to try to help him out and do this, because this is an urgent situation.
Alright, so, Yorath is gonna just tackle this siren. He rolls just well enough to grapple it, so he jumps down into the water and he grabs the siren as best he can in this big bear hug as its sort of clawed wings are trying to kind of break free. He's kind of got it sort of contained for the moment. Actually, hold on. Okay, yeah, the captain gets the grate and he jumps in. Alright. You jumping in?
Yeah, I'm getting my fist tech ready. I throw one of them over to the captain as well, because I have 2 doses.
Okay, he takes it.
And just trying to get... I mean, these are some sharp teeth that I'm getting my hands near, but...
Yes.
This is what we're gonna have to do. Maybe... Let's hope I don't lose them. I only need one hand to play the bagpipe, right?
Yeah. So, you are gonna roll brawling.
Right.
It is at a penalty because it's A, grappled, and B, being ganged up on.
Damn it. No. Oh no.
What?
I fumbled.
Oh. How bad?
Do I roll on a table?
Your roll, just what did you fumble?
5.
Okay, -5. You don't do anything spectacularly bad. You kind of jump for this siren, and it squirms out of the way. You're trying to do this all in reasonably deep water, so your legs aren't even reaching the ground, really. Yorath manages to continue holding the siren. Up above, Golan.
Yes!
All of the sirens above deck are currently dead. You saw Sigurd and the captain run down to below deck not too long ago.
The blue blazes is Sigurd gone. Running from battle? Not very heroic. Alright, men. Keep your eyes about you. And I kind of, run to the side of the boat just to see what I can see. Are there any more coming up?
You run over and look over the side of the ship. You don't see any coming up. You can make an awareness check to kind of try to look deeper under the water.
13.
You do see some below the water. They are basically trying to break through the bottom of the ship. You can't see really how well they're doing due to the angle you're at, but they are bashing their tails against it, slamming into it bodily and trying to break through the bottom of the ship.
Ah, blazes. Is there nothing... I shout to the men about, is there nothing we can do to stop them? Got any anchors anywhere?
They have an anchor? You gonna try to drop it on them?
Aye.
Okay, alright. So, they retrieve this anchor, which luckily because you're a dwarf with a really high body, you can carry pretty easily. And you are gonna try to drop it on them?
Yes. Part of me's thinking it's probably not going to do much damage, but you never know, it might at least distract them or something.
Alright, it's creative. I'll let you roll, for this sort of thing, I think I'm gonna have you roll athletics.
15.
You basically really carefully get over the edge, and you kind of try to triangulate. You drop the anchor. It hits the water with a splash, and does manage to kind of hit one of the sirens. It isn't going to do a lot of damage. I'm going to have you roll 2d6.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9
points, and it does actually start sort of dragging it down deeper into the water. The other sirens do pay attention to this. The ones on that side of the ship kind of look and see their fellow siren being sort of dragged down into the water, and then they look up and spot you. If you want, I will let you make an intimidation check, or probably an intimidation check, either to scare them off or maybe,
piss on them, Golan.
I will make an intimidation deck, screaming as loud as I can, "Come out of the water, you goddamn fish freaks, and face a real warrior."
Alright. So you're gonna roll will plus intimidation?
14.
Alright, 14. The sirens don't really hear you all that well, but well enough. And 3 more come bursting up out of the water. Once again, up into the sky, carried on their large bat-like wings. We'll get to that in a moment. Down below deck, we flash below deck to Sigurd in this tank of water with a siren and Yorath. Sigurd, you're top of the round. You have a chance here. The siren has stopped struggling as intensely. You feel that something is coming.
Let's do this. And I try to open a container and get it on my hands and try to now get it to his mouth.
Okay.
A finger I may lose, but damn it.
Roll brawling.
8.
Total?
No, wait, 9.
You are struggling with it, but you just can't quite get close enough to the currently gnashing teeth. Yorath is maintaining a hold on it, but you see sort of a look of, oh, this might be bad, sort of dawning on his face, and the captain gets in and basically grabs its tail. He's kind of trying to keep it held as much as possible, since you are in its environment. The siren stops struggling, and it opens its mouth. A horrible, ear-piercing shriek emits from its maw. The sound tears through your head, and you are going to roll a stun save at -1.
Shit.
Yorath did succeed, the captain did not succeed.
Neither did I.
Alright, you are stunned. You just have this ringing in your head. You are not going to be doing anything until you can roll under your stun value. Luckily, Yorath is still holding it, so he's going to continue basically wrestling with it. It will not get free and murder all of you while you're stunned.
Right. Just now.
Up above deck, Golan. The 3 sirens have burst out of the water, and they are focusing on you, buddy.
I call out to any nearby, "Come round me! Don't let them surround me, boys! And get some bloody nets! Someone get a bloody net!"
Do you want to do anything on this? They are not in range to strike at the moment.
I anticipate that the time it would take me to get a new weapon out, they'd probably then be attacking me. So instead, I will maneuver myself to make sure that I'm near some other sailors, so they don't completely surround me. And also, I myself am looking around to see if there are any nets.
So you form sort of a defensive circle. You're looking around, and you do see a few nets, which in the next round, the crewmen are going to be at least 2 of the crewmen are going to be running to get. Okay, top of that round, the crew, 2 of the crewmen run to get nets. One of them does attempt to throw the net and has picked up your dice luck and hurls it over the edge of the ship. The other crewman returns to your side. He's going to wait until they come for you and then try to throw the net after that. The other crewmen have basically their boarding pikes, some of them have daggers, and they're kind of going to wait till the sirens come. Alright. You are the one who made the call, so the sirens are going to go after you. 1, 2... One of them will go after one of the crewmen, but 2 of them are going to come for you. So, a siren lunges down at you, swinging its tail for you. How do you want to respond here?
Parry.
Alright, so you want to parry?
-3.
-3.
Otherwise my attack, yeah?
Yep.
14.
14. You reach to parry, but you feel the blade dig into your leg as it basically goes low under your parry. You have a fair amount of leg armor, if I remember correctly, so this probably will not do a lot of damage.
14.
14. Well, it rolled really high damage. So 14, you are going to take 5 points of damage. The damage to a limb is halved because it's not a vital location, so you are actually only going to take 2. Your left leg armor has been damaged by 1. Another one is going to swing down at you. This one is actually going to aim for your head. It's going to take a very high negative, though. Decide how you want to deal with that.
This one I will straight block.
Alright, so you're going to block it with your shield.
Seeing as my parry went a bit off.
Yeah.
Center. That is a 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
Okay, you manage to bring your shield up as basically the scythe-like tail buries itself into the shield. The last one goes to one of the crewmen, and... Ooh, that wasn't good. You see one of the crewmen behind you try to raise their boarding pike in defense, and the blade of the tail buries itself into the side of the crewman's head, and he goes limp. He collapses. I should mention, the crewmen are not really wearing armor. They were not planning on being in a big fight. You are up. There are 2 within range of you attacking them.
Let's make 2 fast attacks. So that's just 14.
14. You swing, but you swing a little wide as one of them ducks under your blade.
Ah, goddamn bastards. That's better. 21.
21. That is definitely going to hit. Roll damage location and damage dice.
That's a 3.
All right, so that'll be in the chest.
23.
23, which will be 11. All right, you slash your axe through the chest of this siren, which did not manage to dodge as elegantly as the other. It is very much not happy. Sigurd, you are going to roll a stun save. As your body kind of floats in the water, as you're kind of just, your head is reeling.
Damn fish. I roll a 1.
Okay, you are back up.
For once,
You manage to shake your thoughts right, and you have a shot.
And I swim back, flinging myself at it. Damn it! This has to work! Okay. So brawling again, I guess.
Yep.
Come on. Come on. No! Ugh. I fumble again.
Okay. The captain will give it a shot if he comes out of his something or other this time. So you're trying for it, but it's just still moving a little too much. It breaks free from Yorath's grip. He is not able to sort of keep a hold on it. The captain does manage to come out of his stun state, and he is gonna make a jump for it. Ooh, that's good. He manages to just basically shove his hand with the fistek into its mouth. And you basically see sort of the siren reels a little, and Captain pulls out a kind of bloody hand, and the siren kind of goes very placid. And the captain curses in common speech as he basically holds the wrist of this now bloody hand. And Yorath is there with, like, his cord. He's kind of, like, waiting to see if he needs to hit it. And it kind of floats there.
Huh. Alright. You did it. You did it.
Yes, we have succeeded. He kind of tears a section of his shirt to bandage his hand.
We should tie it down or something. We should secure it now so we could keep it at this state.
Agreed. Yorath basically gets out and grabs some rope, and is gonna start tying it up. You hear more fighting from up above. What do you want to do?
Well, that would make for a damn story, and I heave myself out of the tank, pick up my Kriegsschwert from the side of it where I tossed it off. And I was like, you go, you do that, tie it up, and I'll start limping up with my sore and aching leg and all soaked. How is it on the outside, by the way? How is the sounds from the outside?
It still sounds like there's some thumping, but it's definitely gotten a little quieter. You heard a large splash previously, but you're not really sure what it was.
I'll run up and see if they need my help.
Alright, you dash up, you see them now in sort of this circle formation, you see Golan just having slashed through one of the sirens. There are 3 basically new sirens on them, as it were.
Okay, well that's good, at least they're not downstairs, below deck.
And you are rushing up to see this. Yorath is dragging the now sort of euphoric siren along with the captain's help kind of holding its tail. It moves from time to time, but it's definitely sort of, mostly passed out. And the captain yells, "What is your plan, Master Dwarf?"
My plan is that with this happy one, or whatever it is, we can show, maybe I was hoping it would calm the others.
Perhaps you can talk to it. It seems to speak something.
Yes, of course. It speaks elder speech. And I go back to Yorath as he holds it, and I kneel down next to it, and I try to speak with it.
It's having a hard time kind of focusing on you, but it does sort of focus on you.
And I try to negotiate with it, or maybe charm it even here, actually. And I say, "Ooh, wise being, you powerful, majestic tale seduces us all. We merely wish for your kind to aid us in this time of conflict. We don't want more trouble with you. Can you please ask that your sisters hold off in their assault?"
Okay, you are going to roll persuasion. This is going to be at a penalty because you are 2 very different species, and it mostly sees you as prey, but it is also sort of in a euphoric trance, so it's only kind of grasping what you're saying. But it's happy about it.
19.
19. It's kind of understanding, and it kind of shifts back and forth between this sort of beautiful redheaded woman and this horrible fish monster, as the illusion that is kind of innate to its being sort of goes in and out of existence. It's kind of gleaning what you're saying. Meanwhile, the crew... The crew managed to basically knock the siren who had killed one of the crewmen out of the air, and they are actually going to... They're actually going to abandon your back, Golan, to try and kill this thing. They start stabbing it with the pikes, and they actually manage to kill it. As these basically these 4 remaining sort of crewmen are just getting on top of this siren and stabbing it with these pikes. The 2 sirens that you are fighting, one of them moves around behind you and swings a tail attack at you. So you're going to already be at a -3 because it is out of your sight cone. You can't see it right now. You can only vaguely...
Yeah, can I do that repositioning thing?
Yes.
So what do I roll for that?
So you roll athletics, plus dexterity, plus the die roll.
That's a 17, -3?
-3.
14.
14. It is going to hit, and it is going to score a critical hit on you.
Yep.
Let's see what happens here. I didn't roll super high. That's good. It swings its tail around from behind, and you feel it start to sort of bury itself into your side. You are going to take 3 points of damage just off the top from the critical wound, and your torso armor is 14 because you're a dwarf?
Yes.
Good. At 14, you only take 2 points of damage as it kind of digs into your armor a bit. You mostly feel basically this sort of tearing feeling, and you can tell that part of your armor has been embedded in the wound. You have a foreign object wound now. This is going to be a pain to heal, and your torso armor has been lowered by 1 point of effectiveness.
Yes.
The other siren is going to swing for you as well. You are not at the -3, but it does have a +1 because multiple people are attacking you.
Well, in this case, it's going to have to be another block as I grunt in pain and just for a moment think to myself, plowing humans fucking left my back open. So that will just be a block attack this time.
All right.
17. You will successfully block as the claw comes down for you, and you kind of catch it on the edge of your shield. The crewmen are currently still stabbing this other siren to death, so you are on your own there. Sigurd, the siren you are dealing with sort of manages to focus on you. Its vision kind of, or its form kind of shifts back into the beautiful red-headed woman, and it sort of reaches out a hand to touch your face.
I have to try and keep this diplomatic approach, even though I know this is dangerous. I'm going to try to seduce it, actually, if I can, and sing to it soothingly, imitating the song that it sang itself.
This is going to be very difficult, but you can try it.
While he's doing this,
Yes.
in the heat of battle, can I see that he's come on deck, and I just in a split second see he's soothing and seducing a siren in the middle of this battle?
Yes, you
Can I
can.
see that? I just shout out, Sigurd, you bloody bastard, what the fuck are you doing?
And I'm completely screening him out, trying to focus on doing this.
All right.
24.
Using a combination of incredibly powerful drugs and seduction skills that only a bard can possess, you manage to break through all the barriers of this thing only really seeing you as prey, and you whisper sweet nothings into its ear holes or something. How are you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm singing to it. I'm singing the words similarly to what it sang itself, but I'm trying to mix in the words of peace and love and understanding between.
It
Yes, we're taking drugs and being hippies.
makes sort of a this low, almost warbling sound, and as the crew basically are turning to attack the one of the other ones, the sirens look towards you, Sigurd, and there's sort of a look of recognition on their weird, sort of glassy-eyed faces.
I feel a bit taken myself by this moment. But I try to focus on this being and the sound that it's now making. Is it forming any words or?
No, this is probably some form of communication thing with the other sirens. There's a still on the battlefield. The crew are not going to attack at the moment because they're really not sure what's happening. The sirens, the wounded one that had come around behind you, Golan, basically flies back into the water. It's not going to be dealing with this anymore. It is pretty heavily wounded. The one that was previously attacking you, the one that isn't wounded, moves to the edge of the ship, so that just sort of its torso is above, and for a moment there's this weird moment as this kind of gangly, scaly fish monster crosses its arms and leans on the railing of the ship in this somewhat seductive pose, and then this illusion of a beautiful brunette woman kind of appears over it, and it's watching, and you see basically more start popping up on the sides of the ship, all in sort of these beautiful women guises. The crew is pretty thoroughly freaked out at this point. The captain looks to you, Sigurd, because you obviously know more about what's going on than he does right now.
I nod towards him and I say that this being and I, we have come to an understanding, I hope. I touch his face. I try to stroke it across its face.
You stroke it across its face. As you touch it, you feel the scales rather than the sort of smooth, beautiful skin. A little bit of a weird dysphoria thing, but it looks at you with its illusionary female face, and how are you proceeding here?
What I'm going to say now is that my beautiful friend, we need to bring you to our other allies. We wish to form an alliance with you and your wonderful people. I know that you are seeking prey, but you're also seeking peace for yourself. Perhaps you and I together can lead a new alliance between your kind and mine, and those of the humans, against those that would seek harm upon us.
Roll persuasion or seduction. It's not rolling well, and it's also still drugged out its gills.
I don't know which is most difficult, but I suppose persuasion is perhaps easier.
It kind of depends on what your skills look like.
Well, I'm best at seduction, so it feels like that's his character, so that's how he plays it, yes.
Okay.
23.
It kind of smiles, a very pleasant smile in front of a horrible, toothy smile, and it doesn't seem to talk a lot, you can gather. It seems fairly quiet, but it actually does nod.
So, will you come with us? Will you come with me? Do you mind if we bring you back to your place downstairs? I will be with you all the time.
It nods.
And then I nod to the captain.
He doesn't entirely know what to make of the situation, but he starts to say something, and the illusion of the woman around this siren falls as it makes this rattling hiss at the captain, who kind of stops and steps back from where he's kind of been holding the tail. He drops the tail. Obviously, there's not exactly there's a bit of bad blood between these two for obvious reasons.
Maybe I can carry her myself, or it.
Sigurd also has a pretty high body, from what I recall.
Yeah.
So you can carry her.
Feels more appropriate.
Carry her back down. The other sirens kind of slip off of the edges of the ship. But as the ship continues moving, you see them keeping pace kind of in the wake of the ship.
Well, I've been looking at Sigurd like he's completely lost his mind, which it sounds like he has, babbling on about being with a fish beast. But I acknowledge that whatever he's done, it's got them off us. And to be honest with ye, these ploughing humans are completely useless, and I could have got myself killed. Now, if there'd been 10 Mahakaman dwarves on board, we would have fucking taken them out. And I also take a moment to inspect the only wound I've taken that apparently is quite a bad wound. How bad does it look?
Basically, right in your side, the barb of the tail just managed to hit you enough to basically dig into your side, kind of right below the ribs, and also tear off a small piece of the leather of your brigandine, which is now stuffed into that wound. That wound will very soon be infected.
God damn it! I've got wine on me. Might that help kill the infection?
What you can do is you can stabilize the wound. Stabilizing the wound lessens the penalty and means that you won't die from it. If you were to, for instance, get a torn stomach or a sucking chest wound or a compound fracture, you would be taking damage over time. And treating that wound or stabilizing that wound would stop you from taking that damage. It doesn't fix the problem, but it will temporarily fix it until you can get to a doctor. So you're going to roll a first aid check.
Which is in craft skills.
Yep.
Ugh. 8. Oh, can I spend some luck?
Yeah, you can. Usually you expend luck before you roll. Since we're kind of wrapping up, I'll let you expend that luck.
Yeah, let's spend all my luck to make it 5, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
All right. You managed to pull out the chunk of sort of sodden leather, and you pour some wine in it, and you kind of bandage it up, and you stabilize the wound. So where you would previously be basically quartering your recovery and your critical healing, basically how long it takes you to heal critical wounds and get hit points back, you would only be having it now. After you saw a doctor and they officially tended to you, you would only take a -2 to recovery and a -1 to your critical healing. So that's kind of how that works. But you were working on that.
Aye, yes, I sort of slump down and administer to my wounds, and I just, stare at Sigurd like, glad that he's done what he's done, but he's gone completely balmy.
Sigurd, you carry the Siren back down to the tank. It's still in this euphoric state. A little part of you realizes that you probably only succeeded at this because she's currently totally drugged up. And this may only be a temporary solution, but it's a temporary solution.
I have all these thoughts to myself, but at the same time, It is a solution. I'm going to try and stay there with her as much as possible when this starts wearing off, and who knows? Maybe it could actually work.
The ship continues on, and after a day or so of travel, you do reach the river heading in towards Kerack. You stay with the Siren, and it remains very placid even after the fist tech is worn off. Very pleasant to deal with, and even does from time to time speak to you in a very strange dialect of Elder speech. As you basically travel up the river, Golan, you do notice that the small flock of sirens that had attacked you on the ship and then had, stopped attacking you, does continue to follow the ship up the river. And you're not entirely sure how you feel about that, but they aren't attacking.
Well, I keep an eye on them, and at least my wound, it stings a bit, but I got out the bloody infection, I think, so at least it should be alright till we get to a doctor. But I will at one point go down to Sigurd and just remark, Sigurd, don't know what you did, but you got them to stop attacking, but what the fuck are you talking about? An alliance with sirens?
And any time that I'm going away from her, which I obviously need to do for biological reasons, if nothing else, I swing by and I speak to Golan about this. Well, that was a pretty interesting call. Nice swings.
Beast, Sigurd. If you'd been focused more perhaps on helping me out, we could have killed them all. But I'll admit these bloody humans weren't much help either.
Well, we might have helped them reach their alliance or whatever they wanted. Might be...
Sigurd, an alliance. Humans. Sirens. They barely have an alliance with us. You think they're going to welcome your fish monster in with open arms and sing Kumbaya songs?
I give him my biggest grin, shrug, and hold out my arms, and then I go back down to my new friend that I found. And I stay with her, and I try talking to her, and I also try singing to her.
And I shake my head, and also go and, from one of the corpses of the sirens, take my dagger, and with my business sense, I'm going to be taking me some alchemical ingredients. I'm pretty sure I don't know much about sirens, but I'm pretty damn sure that some of this stuff is going to be useful to some merchant. I'm gonna need coin. Pay for a bloody doctor.
Your roll business.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's only 10.
You're able to extract vocal cords, which you know are useful for alchemy in a lot of different recipes. And you were able to extract a number of units of essence of water, which is a very important alchemical ingredient in a few different potions and elixirs and whatnot.
I have great hopes here of maybe being a necessary diplomatic link and someone who could be brought to, I don't know, maybe some sort of power and glory. This could be interesting.
After a few days, you arrive at what starts to really look like a battlefield. You see dead, you see broken swords and armor along the shore, even in the sands in the sections of the river that are shallower, broken standards and flags. And the Sirens have continued to follow you. Further up the shore, you reach basically a small river fort, or fortification that appears to have been basically fighting off Nilfgaardian assaults for a little bit. You can tell that Kerack is probably not far down the river from the amount of sort of small town that looks like it has been recently razed to the ground, and you can see Nilfgaardian banners at the far end, sort of starting towards the fort itself. It seems you've arrived sort of just before another clashing of arms. And up on deck, Golan, everything becomes very still as you see these sort of the Nilfgaardian forces moving in a vast black and gold wave towards the fortification, and the people in the fortification starting to load their crossbows and put their pikemen out on the bridge. As the two forces meet and you kind of are coming up the river, the men are starting to kind of grab what weapons they have. They kind of expected to get there in the lull of battle, but it didn't turn out that way. Down below deck, the Siren you've been with, Sigurd, says, "I want to go up to the top. Take me?"
Are you sure?
She nods. She uses her female guys around you most of the time.
Right. Well, I have developed a sort of trust, or a sort of bond, that I feel something, at least, after all this time together. And I try to lift her out of the tank to bring her up.
You lift her out of the tank and you bring her up to the top deck, where Golan, I imagine you are starting to get ready for the clash that is about to happen.
Aye, although I admit, again, like I said before, the pangs of war are not my style, especially when I'm all by myself. It's not the sort of thing I'm into, but shit, we might have to at least get this boat, and, well, people could attack us.
You see Sigurd coming up above deck with the Siren. The minute you get kind of up above deck, the large sort of bat-like wings spread, and she takes to the air from where she's been in your arms, Sigurd.
And I say, "Stay safe, my sweet, and bring swift wrath."
She lets out a shriek as the people on the ship are still not super sure how to feel about her, so they're kind of a little wary. She lets out this shriek, and sirens burst out of the river, swooping down into a mass of soldiers that are kind of battling at the river's head, and start basically tearing through, attacking soldiers, grabbing soldiers and hoisting them into the air to then drop them from heights indiscriminately. The crew are shocked and start sort of running to grab things to attack with. Both forces were not expecting a flock of Siren and are taken off guard by this, and the captain curses under his breath and runs to basically grab something from his quarters. We end for now there in the cliffhanger as Sirens swoop down into the battlefield, capturing people and killing people left and right.
I think I'd like to just sort of finish with I turn my head to Sigurd and say, "I told you were balmy."
I shrug and I smile again, and I look at the carnage now unfolding. I mean, I had spoken to her about what it was that we wanted to do.
Oh,
what side.
You had. You definitely had.
Someone had a bright idea, and I have a story to tell.
And I laugh as I start looking for a way to get out of this situation, because I don't care about any fucking plowing humans.
Yep. Twist the knee with the story. That's perfect. Wow, thank you very much, Cody.
You're welcome. Have fun, guys.
Oh,
I
yeah.
did, actually. Yes, that was interesting. I see what you mean about, again, another system with brutal combat, because it seemed like I was doing really well, and that just that one lapse, one bad roll, and suddenly it was like, oh, nope, that if you don't get that scene too, I mean, that was just one hit. Imagine if I got another one.
Oh, yeah. The higher level critical wounds can nearly take you out of a fight if you're not careful.
Yeah, it was lots of fun, and like you said, like I kind of liked how the dice success kind of escalated organically, even if of course that wasn't in our control, but how bad it went, and then somehow we got into something that was good for the situation, at least. Yeah. And congrats on finding a very, very strange but very barred way to get out of that fight.
Yes, what's the, lay it on us, what's the standard scenario, normal victory conditions?
It splits, basically, if you... The thing about sirens is they're sentient creatures, but they are alien to the standard humans and non-humans. So they see all of you as prey. You basically were able to sort of get on its good side and, endear it to you, which is why, continuing in the situation, none of the sirens would attack Sigurd or Golan. But at the end of the day, it was still looking for prey, and you were still sort of prey to it. So if you helped the captain and brought the siren to Kerack, there was always going to turn into some horrible bloodbath. And you could actually either on your own free or start mutiny with Yorath and free the siren against the captain's will, and the sirens would actually leave without really trying to kill you.
Right. I mean, I feel like, it's still a sort of open ending. We don't really know what will happen with Sigurd and the sirens after this.
Well, I mean, with those successful seduction rolls, you could wind up with an ally among sirens, which would be... It's not impossible. Sirens are sentient creatures capable of thought and, whatnot. So, you never know.
You just try and seduce them next time in Witcher 3, they come on your boat.
Yes, exactly. Ah, man, this is so cool. Were you involved in creating this one-shot?
Oh yeah, I wrote this whole thing.
You wrote the whole thing? Yes, of course. Fantastic, man. I just want to say that I was really happy that you were able to take the time and play with us and go through this one. It was really, really cool to get such an insight into the system, the world, and most of all, a legitimate adventure in it.
Yeah, well, I had a great time running it.
Thanks. Yes, likewise, sir. I'm really glad you took the time for us. It was really fun. I think I was getting into the system, actually. It's not too complex, which I like. Like, it was, when you got into it, it was just roll dice, numbers, skills were quite varied, and combat had some fun little variations. I quite liked the, you could go strong, you can go quick, critical hits and location tables and stuff. I liked the adventure. I'm curious how it would play out with a Witcher, actually, because my constant thought was if I'd been a Witcher character, would be, I know exactly what sirens are. You're all mad. You're all fucking mad. They're sirens. You don't negotiate with sirens.
It always turns out to be interesting when you have a Witcher in the party, because they have that immediate knowledge. Your Witcher is going to walk down and immediately see that siren and, have a laundry list of facts about it. So yeah, a lot of times it will turn into sort of like, we're going to use this siren to try and parlay, an alliance with the sirens, and your Witcher will just be like, really? This is your plan? And
You fools.
you know, a lot of times that works out, but at the same time, it does lend itself to very interesting stories if you don't have that Witcher, because you don't have that immediate, you don't have that immediate knowledge, so you get to experience different stories with it, you know?
Well, that was what I felt, especially because that's the whole point of the story, is that all the background stuff is based on Mr. Geralt of Rivia. But he's normally the one dealing with people like us who are doing stupid things. So it's interesting. Like, yeah, this time we're like, oh yeah, let's negotiate with sirens. Let's capture one. That nothing could go wrong with capturing a siren. I'm sure we'll be out. You know, like that captain was a perfect example, wasn't he? Like, oh, we'll be fine. It's like, well, you would not have been fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a big, and great world, so it's really nice to get a glimpse at it from, you know, some different aspects, not always as the Witcher himself.
Yes.
I was about to say him or her, but yes, there are no hers as far as we are aware of that have passed through the grass.
Well, see, that's the weird part. There are no canon Witchers in the books or the games. There was a weird thing where the cat school was, I think, entirely female in the TV show, but we're not allowed to reference the TV show.
Fair enough.
We at the end of the day, we said we weren't really going to hunt anybody down if they wanted to make female witches in the game, but, you know, it's not canon.
Yeah.
It's not canon for the setting, technically, you know.
But, you know, well, why not if you want to?
Yeah, it's your
After
game.
all, Siri technically becomes one, so, you know.
See, I will always take a little bit of umbrage at that, because she doesn't go through the whole thing. But, you know.
She's the mistress of time and space.
Yeah, she gets enough stuff.
Yes.
She has enough bonuses.
And in closing, I guess, what did you think of us? Did we amuse you?
Oh, you guys are fun. You guys are real fun.
Yay.
You guys really threw yourselves into the characters, and I loved it. Both of you, I would happily run with again sometime later.
Lovely.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yes, I'd love to do more of this stuff. I want to say a big congratulations, basically, on the success you had. The game has, as I understood it, ended up on quite high up on the lists.
Yeah.
Number 2 on Drive-Thru RPG, which is very impressive.
We held that number 1 spot for quite a while. I was impressed.
Yeah. So nice job, nice going with that, and I could definitely see why. I mean, I know the franchise in itself has made it, you know, really famous.
Oh, yeah.
But now seeing the system and how it works and feeling a bit of the world, I definitely see this as something like this. It's sustainable. You could go for a long one, or just do more one-shots with more characters. And I would more than happily throw myself in there again. And so let's see what could happen up ahead then, Cody. So thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, I had a great time.
Awesome. Do you have anything you would like to say about the game, or anything about what you want to do, or what's coming up, or anything else?
We're currently in a situation where we are getting fulfillment done by a fulfillment agency, so the hardcover book will be available very soon, and we're currently working on inputting a bunch of errata. We have a sort of Sage Answers column where I answer questions about the system and compile stuff. But we should be getting the book out to people in physical form very soon. I'm actually already working on supplements for it. I've got a few things I'm working on, including, of course, a bestiary.
Well, we need to see some more vampires.
We will have a few more vampires for you, as well as some really fun stuff. We're looking at incorporating some of the monsters that were only ever vaguely mentioned in either the video games or the books. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. We've got that. I'm working on some adventures and some other stuff. So we've got some stuff going. I really wanted to make sure that this wouldn't be a product that got no support. I want to make sure that if you pick up a copy of The Witcher, you will have, many years of cool supplements to look forward to.
Awesome. Yeah, I could definitely see that because the world could just keep expanding. And yeah, the bestiary sounds like a really cool thing. I could definitely just get into and get down with all that lore about all these different beings. So much fun.
Indeed. Wonderful then. Well, once again, thank you so much for having us. I had a real good time, and yes, that was The Witcher. I very much felt like that was The Witcher, if I'm honest.
Yes, indeed.
I very felt it captured the essence of what it's all about.
It's the highest honor I could get.
Awesome. Yes, definitely living up to the grittiness and the glory, and that is all the world of The Witcher. So I want to say thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Thank you all patrons for supporting the show, and we love you.
We love you guys, and remember, don't try and capture sirens. It's not good for your health.
Bring Fist Tech.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Role-Playing, where we play the adventure, a part of our world, for The Witcher. Our game master was Cody Pondsmith, who has written both the scenario and is a co-writer on the game together with Lisa Pondsmith. The Witcher is published by Talsorian Games, and the Witcher universe was created by Andrzej Sapkowski. The music comes from the Witcher video games by CD Projekt Red. As always, a big thank you to all supporters. If you enjoy the show and want to encourage our work, head over to Patreon and see if you want to support the show there. We hope you enjoyed this special episode and look forward to meeting again. Thank you for listening.